Happy New Year, everybody. Happy 2018. Hopefully you survived 2017. I know that we did. It was a very long year, a lot of challenges, some really neat things. But we're back with the podcast, and I'm very, very excited. I'm excited for the episodes that I've recorded and I'm going to be releasing in the coming weeks, as well as some of the interviews that I have planned coming up. So thanks for hanging in there. I know it's been a while since we put out episodes, and I appreciate your guys' patience and understanding. But now you get to sit back and relax, right? You get to enjoy. We've got new episodes coming up. As always, please tell people and share the podcast. That's a wonderful way to kind of spread New Year joy. How's that? You get to spread some knowledge, some information, just some entertainment, I suppose, at the end of the day. But go to our website, energyislovepodcast.com. Follow us through all the social media platforms. That's what you're supposed to say, I guess, right? Yeah, go follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. If you haven't already, go subscribe to us on YouTunes. I just created a new podcasting platform. It's called YouTunes. No, go subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave us a review, all that kind of stuff. That helps the podcast expand and grow and reach new listeners. But believe me, I missed recording. I missed interviewing people. I missed putting out episodes for all of you to enjoy and listen to. And 2018 is going to be a good year for the podcast. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. So for the very first episode of 2018, you guys get to enjoy my interview with Dan Doty. I am an incredibly huge fan of Dan. I consider him a dear friend of mine, a good mentor. I'll give you a little bit of background on Dan. I heard Dan on Rogan's podcast last year sometime. It was right around the first part of 2017. And he talked all about his organization that he was starting, his mission, his plan for life with Everyman. And I just fell in love with the whole idea and the concept of it. And since that point, I was able to reach out and communicate with Dan. Back in August, I went on the Everyman, the first Everyman expedition, which was a week-long backpacking trip in Yellowstone. That was an amazing experience. I had some just really profound, life-changing type stuff that took place, and I could do a whole podcast just about that expedition and the experience that is, and the experiences that I had. But Dan is one of the founders of Everyman. And their mission is really just supporting men in the space of men's groups and expanding kind of the way that men process and move through life in such a more complete and full way. And we talk about it obviously during the episode, so you'll get an even better idea of what it is. I know that I've talked about it on previous episodes of the podcast. You can also go learn more about Everyman and more about Dan through his podcast. It's the Everyman Podcast. If you go to their website, everyman.co, that's EVRYMAN.co. They've got a lot of retreats and trips planned for 2018, so you can go to their website, find all that information, sign up for one. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. You can also find out more information on their website about starting a men's group, which I would highly recommend as well. That's something that I did back in the fall of 2017. Started up a men's group here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and that's been incredible. That's been life-changing as well. So I could sit here and ramble on for days about how amazing Everyman is, how wonderful Dan is. Like I said, I have a lot of love and appreciation for this man. But for now, you guys get to sit back and relax and just enjoy this conversation with this amazing man. Hopefully you'll learn something, you'll pick up something. And then I highly, 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 highly recommend checking out his podcast. Remember, that's the Everyman Podcast. You can find it everywhere podcasts are available. Go to their website. And now just push play and relax. Because here we go with a dear friend and mentor of mine, Dan Doty.
You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The podcast for the universe.
The Energy is Love podcast.
This is it.
This is it.
This is it.
Do you know Paul Crick?
Killing It with Paul Crick. It's a
No.
YouTube series.
No.
So it's older. I don't think it's going anymore, but he's got a video called This Is It, Fuck It. It Is What It Is. The 3 phrases that you need to live your life.
This is it. Fuck it.
It is what it is.
It's good.
Yeah, I'll show it to you after the
I like it.
podcast.
So how are you, man?
Oh, legitimately better than I ever have been in my entire life.
Really?
Legitimately. I do a lot of exaggerating in my life, and I'm not exaggerating there. Yeah.
Like across the board, every place you can think of.
Yeah, like with momentum and energy and motion and just pure happiness and lack of fear and lack of grasping for anything. Yeah, better than ever.
Super content.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, just it's Sunday night, and this weekend was the most beautiful family weekend I've ever had. You know,
Really?
just like,
Did you guys do anything special, or is it just kind of recognition of?
no, we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything at all. We just hung out and yeah, but coming off a week ago, we finished the last retreat, and I've been literally in a very heightened state since. And as that heightened state has combined with slowing down and being home and being grounded, it's like, whoa, this is it. This is really it. This is amazing.
So tell me about the retreat. That was one big thing I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah, it was 50 guys. It was 49, I think, altogether. And a handful of those were facilitators and co-facilitators. And so we've done 3 of these open source weekend retreats, and each of them has been a big leap forward for Everyman in general, or for our business. I mean, the first one, we hadn't even formed a business yet. And also for my confidence, my trust, my ability to let go, and trust that what we're doing is not only good and needed, but received, so this last one was so freaking powerful, man. Just like, holy, just crazy. Like, legitimately, men are changing their freaking lives in the couple days that we're together. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Is it the type of thing where you said you've done 3 so far?
Yeah.
And the first one you guys did was last December too, right? So it's coming up like almost a year.
A year ago.
Is it the type of thing where you think you're getting better at doing them and hosting them and putting them on and facilitating them? Or do you guys consciously kind of plan for each one, we're going to do more, we're going to do things differently?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. The original flow of events that I came up with, or Sasha and I came up with a year ago, hasn't really shifted very much. It's almost identical. Again, I think it's confidence and trust that are making them more and more and more powerful. The other thing this time was that a bunch of the guys, it was crazy. We had guys flying in from Alberta, like 3 guys from California, Texas, Ohio. Like, guys are aware of what we're doing and are coming because of it. In the beginning, it was just like our friends, and friends of friends. Like, people would know me or Sasha and be like, okay, we trust these guys. They think this is going to be good. Let's go try it out. And now guys are coming prepped and ready. Not necessarily know exactly what they're getting into, but they're up for it.
They're excited for it, huh?
And this last one, Owen Marcus, my mentor and teacher, came to basically anchor, and one of the coolest things about this was we had 9 co-facilitators, so like assistants and facilitators all together, 9 of us. And Owen's core role was to mentor and help us. And so in a way, we empowered a bunch of dudes like you. Like, I would love you to come and do that, empower you to facilitate a small group within the structure of the weekend. And the effectiveness of that has just been wild.
Oh,
Like,
Owen's a badass. Like he's some of my, like those episodes that you've done with him. Those are some of my favorite episodes of your podcast. Every time that he's on, I get super excited, and it's like I have to just try to tune everything else out.
Yeah.
Because I want to absorb everything that man says.
Dude, he's more than a badass. He's a fucking ninja.
Yeah.
He's a fucking Jedi. He's a freaking yeah. I mean,
So did you guys have, like, did this exceed what you kind of was, not, what you had planned? Did you think that hopefully we'll get this many guys, or?
There was some fear about having this many men in one place.
Mm-hmm.
There's some fear about timing. There's some fear just about logistics. There was some fear about, can we provide as deep of an experience to more and more
For that
guys?
many guys,
Yeah. And honestly, man, I'm sitting here now dreaming up like a festival where we have 5,000 dudes coming, but each one of them gets to check in with a small group of 8 or 10 guys. And I think we could crush that. I think we could have way more guys. I mean, we're not going to leap to that, we're not going to rush it, but man, it was, and we get in these weekends, we get into these really deep, intense healing journeys, which are sort of like the full gamut of our basic protocols, which are slow down, feel, and express. And the healing journeys are riding that all the way through, and the result is the natural release of old, call it trauma, call it tension, stress, energy, things that haven't been said, and things get wild. Things get real wild.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been to some wild places together, and the expedition, the wilderness ones, we have more time. And I designed that to let nature do more of the work, right? And on a 2-day retreat, like, you got 2 days. So we you got
to hit it hard and
we
fast,
hit it hard.
right?
We do. And we don't really let up until the end.
Yeah. Is it hard? Because, like, for example, when we were on the expedition, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit of time to kind of work your way into it, even though you, that was one thing I really liked, was you guys just went right after it from the beginning. So there wasn't like some sort of misunderstanding of what it really was going to be about.
Right.
But at the same time, you could ease into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Are the weekend things just a lot more fast paced in a sense where you don't have that luxury?
Yes and no. I mean, I think that time stretches in the way you need it to, right? So we get guys coming in on the retreats prepped with some questions and a handful of emails to kind of get them at least subconsciously headed a certain way. And then the first night we get in there, we have a dinner. And actually the very first night, that what we did on the expedition is pretty much identical as the first night on the retreat. So we have a dinner. We set the safety of the group. Everybody checks in. We talk about agreements, and then we do an exercise, the AB line or something to really, the intention on the Friday night or the first night of the weekend retreat is to make it really safe and then start to amp up the energy a little bit. Not too much, but, start to, I don't know, go into some scary territory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But not a deep dive, right? And then Saturday morning, we start with, because the thing I like about these retreats and expeditions too, but is that we incorporate full spectrum stuff, right? So we get up and we do yoga, we do some meditation. Yeah, sound right?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. We get up and do yoga, do some meditation, have breakfast, and then kind of, I'd say right after breakfast on Saturdays when we kind of like drop the hammer for the first time a little bit.
Do you have, because I'm thinking about, when I went on the expedition, I had full, at least what I thought, do you know what I mean? I understood what I was going into, what I was looking for, what I was hoping for, all those type of things. Do you have guys that show up? Like, it blows my mind that somebody is going to come to something like that, whether it's the wilderness thing or whether it's the weekend retreat, and kind of still be in that space of like, I don't really know what the fuck I'm getting into.
A lot of guys.
But I'm going to give it a shot.
A lot of guys still do.
See,
and that's amazing.
That is amazing to me to think that, they're going to, like, what is it about you? What is it about what you guys are doing, you think, that attracts guys and makes it appealing enough?
Yeah, a couple things. I think that as things move forward and we're more established, I think it'll happen less and less.
Mm-hmm.
And as we communicate more clearly what it is we do, it'll happen less and less, because it's still kind of mysterious, you know. It's like this men's stuff. I mean, it's not mysterious, and that's what I think we're learning, is just to be really transparent and straightforward about it. You know, we're practicing feeling and saying things that we've never been safe enough to do, and in doing so, it unleashes a lot. And then we have the skills and protocols and everything to ride that and manage it and direct it and grow from it. But to your question, part of it is that, so my co-founders, you know, Lucas, and Sasha is the other guy, and you don't know Sasha yet. So many people love and trust that man. Mm-hmm. So like for the first retreat, you know, he just sent out a personal email blast to hundreds of people, and, you know, mostly filled up our retreat. So that had a lot to do with it. And then the other, it's funny. Where it still does happen, and where I do see it happen, is when a wife or a girlfriend says, hey, husband or boyfriend, you got to go to this, or I really want you to go to this.
Is that happening too?
Oh yeah.
Like, that's cool that women are, you know, learning about it and finding it and whatever.
Absolutely. It's happening. I think like 4 or 5 guys this last retreat were through their partners.
That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah. So the guys that are coming have this, and this is actually cool, something that I've been thinking, not spending a lot of time, but it keeps coming up. Like, the guys that come, whether they know or not know, because honestly, thinking you know coming into it doesn't often do that much for you, right? I mean, sometimes it does. But the quality that I just look for and love more than anything, both in our participants, but also our facilitators, and just in general now, is willingness. You know, just that is so freaking valuable.
Yeah.
That single thing, like, you know, in my meditation lineage, sort of two steps above me was Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. He was a Tibetan Buddhist who came over to the United States and started Naropa University and had a huge impact. But he has a quote that I'm sure I don't get quite right, but it's just that when a door opens, you leap through it. And that to me is like the epitome of willingness, right? So if these guys, whether they know what the hell we're doing or not, I deeply trust my and our ability to make people feel okay, right? Even if it's scary, even if they don't know what's coming, like, hey, we got you. That's, I think, one of my, or our collective superpowers at this point is like,
well, you've done, you know, specifically with Everyman and everything like that, it's been, you know, like a year basically, right?
Yeah.
But you've done work with, because I know all about the past with like the youth and with the teenagers and things like that. So you've done work like this in similar form or fashion for a very long time. Do you still, like, is there ever a point when you're, you know, sitting in group or something happens and you're like, oh fuck, I don't know what to do with this. Like, this is
you on the expedition was one of the bigger challenges I've had in a long time.
Really?
Yeah. It was that. Yeah, that was pretty wild.
So that still happens every now and then.
Yeah, every once in a while. At this point, I'm like, bring it on. You know? But I do have to say, like, this last one, having Owen there, mm-hmm. I mean, I feel unstoppable with him there. You know, I feel far more confident with him there. When it's just me, or where I feel like I'm the backstop, right? Energetically speaking, then yeah, it is scary, man.
Still a little unnerving.
Yeah, you never know. And that is also, you know, that's the edge of growth, man. That's the edge of my growth. That's in general. And the way we design this is that it really is working, and I'm really proud of it. But it's that we're empowering the entire group or crew or whoever's there in the moment. That, listen, it's not just on me. It's not just on us leaders. It's on everybody, right? Like mm-hmm. the responsibility for safety, the responsibility for a lot of things. It's a shared group co-created thing. And that really makes a huge difference too.
Yeah, I think it, you know, adds a certain amount of comfort and everything like that, but there's like weight behind that aspect and that knowingness that,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? It isn't just one guy, it's everybody that's in that space that's helping to keep and facilitate and hold that space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that creates a lot of strength. But yeah, man, I mean, like I'm still very young in this, you know. I'm not like some wise old wizard that's done everything. There's no, I mean, not even close. But I do get a big kick out of the wild shit, you know.
Yeah.
Like it really something in me lights up when things get hairy.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's powerful. I can think back to, like I want to talk about what happened to me on the expedition.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's I'd like to share, and I think it's interesting, and it's my fucking podcast. I can talk about whatever I want, which is nice.
Yeah.
But I remember back when I was a cop, and the times that there were, like when it was real stuff, right? When it was the really, I mean, just because it was always during something incredibly shitty, right? It wasn't, you know, it wasn't ever a good situation, but there were times where it was like really, 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 I don't even know how to describe it, Dan, because it's so, there's a reverence to it that I have for being in those spaces. But those were the spaces that I craved.
Right.
Even though they came at a high cost and they were very, a lot of times, you know, they didn't go well. But being in those moments and in those spaces, and every now and then you would get to help people, and you would get to see, do you know what I mean? Some sort of positive result out of it. But it was definitely kind of, I mean, it's different obviously, because it's, there's the air of safety and all those kind of things. And I mean, sitting in a men's group, your life necessarily isn't, you know, I mean, it is in a sense too, if you think about it, because the power that can be created and kind of brought forth in that space does have the ability, like you said, to kind of change lives in that moment.
Oh yeah.
And so I think it's really, really interesting.
Well, if you had to put one word or a couple words on to sort of color that space you're talking about, is it chaos? Is it darkness? Is it intense? Is it wild? I mean,
boy, I don't know. It's like it's almost like it's definitely chaos, but it's like the quiet in the storm, where it's kind of like the edge of chaos, where you can see, do you know what I mean? Like you're right in the, almost like the eye of the hurricane type thing, where it's surrounded by chaos in the moment, but then there's clarity in the moment, and you feel like you have the ability to do something in that storm and in that chaotic moment, because things slow down enough. And because a lot of times it's just the chaos, it's just the, do you know what I mean? Where you don't have anything other than to react to what's happening, and, you know, having to do whatever it is that you have to do. Yeah. And so it's kind of that quiet moment, that little eye in the storm, where at any moment,
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think when things, and there is a, you know, there is a I guess a way to relate to that, or why I can talk about even on these retreats, you know, is that when a man is allowed or guided into some of the darkest things that he's got inside, and has a safe place to let him out, you know, it's terrifying, right? I mean, it really is.
It is terrifying.
And, you know, I think as a facilitator or a guide in those moments, it is completely a feeling of being an eye in a hurricane, being able to withstand and being completely present to and with it all the way, and, you know, having space for it, and not being, you know, knocked over. Yeah. Because it could be.
Yeah, you very well could be.
But the amazing thing is that, again, it's this, it's not just me, right? Or it's not just Owen, it's not just whoever's doing this, but the other men have the same ability too, to step up and be there for the guys. And so to me, it's a pretty, I don't know the right language for it, but a human ability to do that, to act in the face of, you know, act in support and love in the face of complete dark, whatever that is.
Yeah. Well, I don't quite know how to, like, I'm trying to think of how to, because I want to talk about what happened to me on the expedition, because I think it's a good opportunity, and that's kind of what we're talking about for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And, but I don't know how to segue into it.
Well, yeah, I mean, let me try. I think that, and this might be totally off, right? So just tell me if it's on or off, but I felt like you landed in a safe enough space to let loose some stuff that needed to be let loose. I felt like just this clear recognition, and he was like, okay, well, here I can handle it. But also I felt the question is, can they handle it? Can they handle it if I really go here?
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, so it was, you know, talk about these healing journeys where guys are kind of guided into their crazy parts, and you had, you know, your finger on it and didn't need any guiding. You just got to go. You just kind of went.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I had prior to coming to that expedition and everything like that, in no way, shape or form was that what I was like thinking about or what I was planning on, or do you know what I mean? It had nothing to do with
totally.
But I think it was very much subconscious kind of, like you described it a good way, where, you know, I kind of had my finger on it, but yet maybe didn't realize it.
Right.
And then when some aspect of me realized that it was a space that was, you know, now was the time, then it was like, okay, now is the time. And I mean, it's hard to describe. And so people listening are like, what the hell are they talking about? And I mean, at the core of it, what happened basically was I just kind of, I fell apart in a sense, but it was more of like this, like a purging of all this raw, deep anger and rage and emotion and darkness and like everything that had been stuffed down and bottled up inside of me for years and years and years and years and years, and possibly, you know, a lifetime, like 20, 25, 30 years of my life, just having the opportunity to suddenly, they pop the top and everything just comes flowing out. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what the hell was happening. It wasn't expected in any way, shape, or form. And it felt very violent physically for me. Mm-hmm. Like it was the type of thing that I felt incredibly nauseous and sick. I mean, at points I thought I was going to actually physically throw up. And it was just super bizarre. I had never had that massive amount of emotion and rage come pouring out. I've had glimpses of that much, but never that much all at once for almost like an extended period of time.
It was a good long run, man. He gave it a really good push.
Yeah. You
know, and one thing that I'm really grateful for too. So if I didn't know who you were whatsoever, mm-hmm. And that happened, like it would have been, I think I would have been more scared, but having done a podcast with you, knowing about who you were as a kid, knowing about your career, you know, that, I don't think it was any, you know, accident or whatever, but that, you know, we had spent some time together before. So I had, you know, sort of got a sense of you. And, it was amazing. It was beautiful. And it was also, it put our group, right, this first expedition, right on the edge right away, which was incredible. It was in the long run a really big gift to the group. It was just like, all right, you know, we're not fucking around here. We can just it's all good. And there was a few moments in there where, you know, I think you could tell the group was feeling scared. Very scared.
Yeah. And I think like that's another thing that so like in our group, so we've got our group back home in Salt Lake City, and one of the things that I have found really interesting is men being able to express emotion, not express emotion, express anger, and express some of those things, and it's really unnatural. We have a guy, and he, over the course, because I'm trying to think how long we've like been running our group for like 2 months, 2.5 months or something like that. And over the course of that time, he gets closer and closer and closer and has moments where he can really tap into that well of anger and rage that he's got inside of him. And because I had that experience on the expedition, first off, it felt, afterwards, not immediately afterwards, but obviously coming home from that experience and processing everything, I was so incredibly thankful for that experience and the opportunity to express that. And then it kind of gave me ownership to be all right in expressing anger. Yeah. Not to that level. Luckily, I don't have to bottle things up now or keep things as pent up, but it kind of gave me the opportunity to recognize that it's okay to express that in small little ways and shapes and forms and things like that. And, but a lot of guys don't, from what I'm seeing and from what, if I think back and really examine my life and the relationships that I have with men and my buddies and my friends, like that's not an okay thing for guys to do. And then to get to watch them do it is really, really neat. And
and you have a gift there now. You have a specific gift there because of the level that you were able to go to yourself. You have people, you may be subconsciously sought out for your gift in that. Honestly, it is an interesting way that it seems to work that way. But like, yeah, if you, I mean, I think it's like a lot of what we're doing in these groups on a basic level is that we are stretching our limits of what's okay for us to feel, right? And so, for example, anger is an incredibly good example. If I'm if I've become okay with the far reaches of anger, and you express the far reaches of anger, I can be there for you, right? But if I haven't taken that journey myself, if I haven't gone down that road, and you start to go there, I'll fucking fold. Right? Yeah. And in a much more day-to-day way, I think that, well, I've talked about this before, but one of the hardest things for me to sit with is this idea of hopelessness or this sort of despair. I'm not good with it. It's really hard for me. And even in just like little moments, my wife can go there and express these little hopeless moments. And I get all tight. And I really have a hard time being there for her in that. So, I really see it almost visually as we are practicing to be present and okay with every direction, with the deepest, wildest, warmest, gentlest love and the darkest, scariest, violent anger, everything in between, so. Yeah.
I was blown away. Well, I shouldn't say blown away. Like you said, like we kind of knew each other, right? We had a little bit of interaction and some experience and things like that. But I think I had a good sense of who you were, and I really liked you, and I was really drawn to you, and I really, do you know what I mean? Felt like not only what you were doing with every man, but you specifically was good stuff, like the kind of stuff that I wanted more of. And then processing after the fact and thinking back and then coming home from that expedition and sharing the whole experience with my wife and talking to her specifically about that night and the way that I kind of, exploded in a sense. I was really blown away how you were able to stay in that moment and do so in such a incredibly, just fucking powerful way. And it's hard to put words into it. And I'm sure people listening is like, what? Like, it's hard to even kind of imagine what the hell we're talking about. But the way that you were able to kind of just stand and be present in that space and not waver. Yeah. And not only not waver, but then continually move forward. Because there were times, like I remember, like I think at one point I'm like yelling at you and telling you to fuck off and like shut up, like and you just held your ground and then just slowly move forward in that space in a sense. And also I think physically I remember at some point you coming up and like putting your hand on my shoulder or something like that, and that's powerful. Like that's a gift, man. That's something that is I think it's a human trait, like you talked earlier. Like I think all humans, everybody has the capacity for that much emotion. But I think that there's unique individuals out there that are actually able to do it.
Maybe, yeah, maybe not. Oh, I thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. And Owen, who we've been talking about, I mean, like, there's nothing that I could picture anyone throwing at him that he couldn't love. you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. But yeah, I do think it's also, well, I mean, and you know, talking about where I am here too, where I am in my life too, it really is, I am having these moments of, well, I'm just share. So my big takeaway from this last weekend, which was really big for me. So one of the things that every man, you know, us at whoever's in the leadership seat is also participating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the best leadership we could do is be a good participant and just lead by example. And so, yeah, I get a shit ton out of every one of these, you know, and this last one was crazy powerful for me. And so my core issue or wound, I would say, in my life, like what I've bumped up against my whole life and what's really stressed me out and caused me a lot of struggle is the feeling that it's all on me, or the feeling that all the responsibility everywhere I go lies on me, which is a lot of responsibility to feel. I felt that as a little kid, and then it just became my life. Right? Mm-hmm. And this weekend was I don't know if I want to say it was the death of it, but it was it broke open, and I sat there, you know, in this immensely large circle of men. And I was having these moments, man, of like, what's my role here? Like, what am I doing? Like, am I leading this? I'm like, it doesn't feel like I'm leading this. And it was just this awesome. What I recognize, what it was now, is that it was the absence of this pressure that I felt my whole life, that it was all on me, because it was so clearly fully not all on me. Like, you know, this amazing team with me, like, just felt this amazing support. And so yeah, no, I take your compliment, or I hear you. And I also the core of what we're doing is that I believe that everybody can do this, or at least do it better.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's not about being able to like do some crazy shit in a circle of men. It's like, can I sit with my child as he, you know, cries or is a dick, and can I love him through that? And can I, you know, not freak out when a dude on the highway flicks me off? Can I, you know, whatever it is, can I show up for my wife when she's really sad? All that stuff. And so
one thing that I don't remember what episode it was when you and Owen were talking, and the way that you guys, one way that you were describing a men's group was because you talk about being able to show up in other aspects of your life. And this is the place that you get to practice that. And like, it's like the gym where you get to go and work out, and you get to, you know, do all these type of different things, so that when you do come across these things in everyday life, you get to show up better in those spaces, and you get to implement this skill set that you've been practicing in this safe environment with these other men. And I think it's very, very much like that's super on point, because I can think about stuff that I took away from the expedition that I immediately went home and tried to implement and put into place. And then having a weekly group that we go and meet, it just helps so much to stay in that space of practice and gaining from the other men. And I'm constantly thinking about shit that we talked about on Monday and things that I picked up on, you know, and learned from them. And now I'm trying to implement something that they said in my everyday life. And I mean, that's massive.
The weekly check-in part of it, the weekly recurrence of it is huge, man. I have, for the past 10 years, 8 years, 9 years, whatever it is, I like mark my weeks. You know, I don't know, maybe people think of weeks like Monday to Monday or Sunday to Sunday or whatever. I always think of mine from my group to the next group. It really is, man. It's like, it's my anchor, right? Yeah. It's like the thing that, I mean, I know it's a commitment. It really is a commitment to show up every week, but the benefit of it is just, it's insane. It's insane, the amount of, and I've gone for chunks of time, you know, with that one. When I first moved to Bozeman, I went a little bit over a year. I didn't have a group. And, yeah, man, you know, what it makes me think of is, have you ever paddled in a boat without a keel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like when you have a keel, I think it's a keel, right? That the line on the very bottom of it, like a ocean going kayak, like it'll keep a straight line pretty good. But then like river kayaks have a completely rounded bottom, so they don't track straight. Every time you paddle, it turns the nose of your boat, and it's hard to keep going straight. So that's an analogy that works for me, and it's true for me that a weekly group, like these expeditions and retreats, they're powerful, they're helpful, they're really helpful, and funneling that energy into a weekly group and having a group of guys consistently is just it's like keeps it going.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Did you when you guys originally came up with, we're gonna do this thing called Everyman, was the podcast a part of it, or did that kind of come later?
That was a dream. That was an idea. Actually, the majority of it were all these sort of, well, no, actually, if you look behind you, there's a whiteboard, and so here's the story. So I was in my media career. I had moved out here to Montana, and I fucked up a couple times, and I pissed some people off in the company, and pissed some people off real bad once. I got good at pissing people off. Right on the verge of a 2-week trip to Hawaii that my wife and I were taking. And I like literally took off in the plane being like, I don't know if I'm gonna have a job when I come back. And we had a baby coming, and it was scary, super scary.
Yeah.
So when I landed in Hawaii, and this is a big trip to Hawaii, just in a lot of ways. But when I landed, I, called a buddy, and he really kind of worked me through some shit. And one of the things he said is like, all right, man, so treat this as if you don't have a job when you're coming back, and lay down exactly what you want to happen, right? And I think everything on this board is still pretty much there. So it didn't have the name Everyman, but the podcast was definitely there. The groups were there, retreats, the wilderness expeditions, writing, all kinds of things. It was all there. I've been formulating. Actually, this is interesting. On the ride home from New York, I looked in my notes on my iPhone, and from 4.5 years ago, I had written this vision, and it's all there. Like, it's amazing. Actually, yeah, I could read it, but I could maybe I'll post it up as an article or something, because yeah, over 4 years ago was just this like very clear, and it was written in language, not like, it wasn't wishy-washy. It was like, we need to do this. We need to do this. We will do this. And so yeah, the podcast was, it's always been
always some component that you wanted to incorporate into it.
Totally. It always made sense to me. And having been in the sphere of Joe Rogan and Steve on the Meat Eater podcast, and it became a pretty fluent part of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm nowhere near where I want to be with the Everyman podcast, but I'm happy with it, and I know that there's a lot more. Actually, I feel like I'm being more open and honest with you here than I am on my own podcast, which is something to think about. But I definitely think that there's somewhere to go.
Are you enjoying it?
I love it, man.
Like, they're fun, isn't it?
Oh, it's so much fun. It's the best.
Yeah, it's way fun.
Yeah, it's the best thing. It's super fun. I want to do more in person like this. I'm getting sick of doing things over the internet.
I hate the fucking online interviews. I did a bunch of them when we first started, and like, because you get to that point where it's nice, it's convenient, it's easy, but it's so different. Yeah. And I tend to not do them anymore. I've got another one. This cool guy that I've been trying to get for a really long time. And finally, we got it scheduled at the end of this month, end of December. So I'm excited for that. And every now and then, like, if there's a good one that pops up that I really, really want to make work, but at the end of the day, I can't. I don't. Did
you tell me you did one with JP Sears?
Yeah,
dude, I'm jealous. I want to meet that guy.
It was way cool. He came to Salt Lake.
Yeah,
like we found out probably maybe like a month or two, and he was coming and speaking at some event and doing his little thing, and so I just reached out and talked with like his assistant, and we didn't get to do it in person because his schedule was so tight. But my wife and I went to his little event and then got to meet him in person and chat with him and hang out a little bit. So then at least we had that connection.
Right. Yeah.
So it wasn't completely, out of nowhere when you sit
He's so
down.
freaking funny.
He
man.
is funny. He's a good guy.
Yeah. No, I like the podcast. I want to do it for a long time. I hope to do it for a long time.
What do you want to do? What can you imagine
Well,
doing differently with it?
I think I could imagine going more regularly and more deep with guys and have like the level and depth of conversation that we have in our groups or in our retreats, which is truly profound a lot of the time, you know? And I think when you came on the earlier side, or I don't remember what number you were on, but, you know, we met in person and we really sort of dropped in and that to me was a very, very, that was about the depth that I would love to keep. But when I do them over the internet, and honestly, some of it is when it's doing with guys who have an agenda already or have a platform, you know?
Yeah.
It's really hard to knock somebody off their platform, man. Cause you know, I'm sure I don't think I'm there yet and I'll probably have to fight it, you know, but I don't want to, it's just boring to me.
Yeah.
You know,
I totally agree.
it's like, okay, tell me what you fucking are known for. And I could go find that in a million places. It's like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Not that it's not valuable. I mean, so yeah, I go back and forth. I think that, I also, at this point, you know, we're doing a lot of guys within the community. So guys who are sort of in the everyman community. And part of me is like, well, maybe that's what we should be doing, right? Because we are, I think, being examples to other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I don't know. You know what the biggest question is to me is who the audience should be. Is the podcast for our guys, or is the podcast for the general public, or both? So I don't know. I'm not spending a lot of time trying to design, right? I'm just kind of like, honestly, sometimes I'm just trying to keep up, and other times I'm just kind of following my heart. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd let it unfold naturally.
Yeah.
Like it's so much.
Yeah.
When you, at least for me personally, in the process of doing the podcast, the times that I get wrapped up in thinking about who's listening, who's my audience, or, you know, what type of episodes do I need to be doing or want to be doing, or what type of people do I want to be reaching out to, or I get caught up in all of that shit.
Yeah.
And then it sucks a little bit of the enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
And then also, I don't feel like those episodes or I just, you know, I don't think they're as good.
Yeah.
For me, those aren't the episodes that I really look back and think, man, I really, really, really like that episode of the podcast.
Well, I tell you which one I'm most proud of is the one with my wife. And
oh my goodness, man.
you know, that I don't expect every episode could be to that level.
Yeah.
Because that's about as, you know, it's about as deep as my life goes in a lot of ways. But I would like to have that deep and impactful conversations.
That was a powerful, powerful episode. I was up in Canada flying around and listened to that episode, and like, it was so good, so raw, such powerful, honest, true stuff. And the way that you guys addressed issues and the way that you guys talked about things, not just openly, but also, Dan, it was like, like you guys did go listen to that episode. If you haven't, you know, if you don't know, go find fucking Everyman Podcast and go listen to that episode specifically. But the way that you guys addressed bigger issues that were taking place, and they're still taking place in the world and in, you know, society and all these type of things. You did it from like this kind of place from the outside where you looked at it kind of, I guess from the outside, kind of like from this not mental, but intellectual point of view.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, you guys had all this heart and emotion and raw, connected, personal, do you know what I mean, experience and story. And it was it's one of my favorite episodes that you've done.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, so those are the questions that go through my head. So my grandmother passed a month ago, and I was home for the funeral, and you know, I guess I wonder where the line is sometimes. You know, like, part of me wanted to sit down with my grandpa and record a conversation about, losing his wife of 50 years, 60 years. You know, like that's what's really meaningful to me. And, you know, it felt a little intrusive, so I didn't do it, you know, but that kind of thing. Like, I'm planning a podcast with Gan Dunnington, who you know, and, the conversation we're planning is going to be hairy, right? Really hairy. And that, you know, that lights me up. And at the same time, I don't think every single episode has to be this, you know, freaking.
Yeah, but that's like the power of of a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like the thing that is so neat about them, regardless of, you know, there's obviously 1,001 different podcasts out there.
Yeah.
But that's the really cool stuff, when you can have those type of conversations where you're not thinking about anybody else that's listening. You're not thinking about the fact that you're recording a podcast. You're just in the moment having a conversation or discussing something that is so real and so true and so raw and so pertinent to not only you, but the experience of just in the moment. And then on top of it, everybody else gets to sit in and listen. Like right now we're in your home, we're in this room, we're sitting here recording.
Yeah.
And you can imagine like just people sitting in chairs surrounding us,
right,
getting to tune in and listen to this conversation that we're having. And that's the neat thing. When I went to Ireland, talked to people there that had listened to the podcast. Like that's the other cool thing, is the fact that people in all over the world get the opportunity to sit into this little room right here where we're at and listen to this conversation.
Yeah. No, it is amazing.
And that's the cool part, I think.
Yeah. It's supernatural is what it is.
Well, I think you're doing well with it. And I hope you keep doing it.
Yeah. Thanks, man. No, I will. Yeah. It's only growth is planned, you know, for sure. It's been a really successful thing so far, and not, you know, massively successful number wise or anything, but just in terms of impact and in terms of us building an identity and getting people to our retreats. And it is, I mean, it's amazing to feel it happening. How
did you have a lot of the guys at the retreats that came through the podcast?
Yeah. And
That's
it's
awesome.
incredible. It's just an incredible feeling. And it's grown, right? So the first retreat, there was no podcast. The second retreat, there was no podcast, but I had been on Rogan's podcast. So a couple people came on that second one and sort of had heard of us or me through the ethers. And then, since the expedition was a sea change, and that I think 4 or 5 of the guys were from podcast listening. Yeah. And then this last retreat was, more and more. So yeah, it's just cool. It's cool to
be a good way, huh?
It's cool nice to see how it builds, man. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's, again, back to the podcast with my wife about Me Too. It was just the level of heartfelt response that people would write in with, you know, and the amount of people that wrote me saying, please put me in touch with your wife, you know, please, can I, you know, talk to Elise? And yeah, man, that's meaningful. I mean, I've already surpassed all of my needs in terms of, I mean, honestly, like, you know, being able to impact a couple people is so powerful. And yeah, it's crazy.
So if you think of about, I mean, this may be a really easy answer for you, a really easy question to answer, but what is like 1 or 2 of the most profound things that you've taken away over the past year of Everyman that you may not have thought about? Because obviously you had this idea, and you had this intention and these hopes and these dreams for what this was going to be and what this was going to do and how you were going to feel. But what's some of this stuff?
The number one thing is the resonance with which guys are, and not just guys, but, you know, most of the guys, the resonance with which they're getting it and wanting it. And so many times guys have reached out and said, I didn't know what I was looking for, but this is what I was looking for. I didn't know what I was feeling, but something about this clicks in a way that I've just needed or something, you know. I don't know exactly. I think that, you know, in sort of an intellectual sense, we are hitting a note or a chord that, you know, has just been missing for a while. And that's just, what that does for me is just spurs me on, it adds to confidence. It adds to clarity. You can hear my son saying no in the background.
Got Duke out there.
That's been huge just to like, and I mean, let me put it in different words. So I've worked with a lot of guys in my life, right? From young guys to old guys. And, I don't know that there's been any huge aha moments that was like anything brand new, but it's just been overwhelmingly and consistently backing up all of the things that I've felt and seen before.
Just
right?
reaffirming everything.
Oh yeah. And just in great number and in both quality and quantity, reaffirming that. And, the amount of just, ability and brilliance and beauty and love of all these guys all over the place. And it's just screaming to come out, it's just screaming to come out. That's what I'm seeing everywhere. And,
I forgot I had another thing that I wanted to ask you. So when it comes to the space of like men's work or empowering men, right? I think that one of the things that always turned me off, because there's a ton of shit out there for that type of stuff. There's a ton of organizations and groups and weekend retreats and things that you're supposed to be doing. And I mean, all the stuff that every man does, there's other things that do it in different ways. Yeah. But like me personally, I never felt drawn to any of those things. Like when I think about, and I don't even know what they're called because I never took the time to really look into any of them, but you see them all the time. Yeah. Like I don't want to go on a weekend retreat where I'm being yelled at and doing push-ups and somebody's punching me and I have to push I don't want to do, that doesn't appeal to me in any way, shape or form. Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of that type of stuff taking place right now for men. And I don't know why, like, I don't understand why that is somehow appealing to, I mean, I like to think that I know what a man thinks and that I'm in touch with, manly things, obviously, but I don't see what part of that really resonates and connects with people. But it seems like it does. Like, it seems like that's a thing that people are really enjoying. Totally. But it seems to me like it's the opposite of what I think men should be doing. I think that is embracing the asshole side of what men are. Yeah. Even though I'm not saying, I don't know, like I said, I'm not naming names or calling out it because I don't know what the hell they're called. You just see them out there. And I think the way...
Do you want me to not name them?
You're more than welcome to. It doesn't bother me. Like, I just don't know who the hell... Yeah. I don't know why that seems like an appealing thing in the world right now, but it seems like it is.
Yeah, no, that's such a good question, man. There's a...
Like, you kind of know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly
those type of groups and organizations.
There's a couple of different types, right? So I would say that historically in the past, up to the last 15, 20 years ago, the men's work, call it that, men's work with parentheses around it, is generally divided into folks that started with the mythopoetic movement, which is Jungian in its underpinnings. It's very much about the mythical sort of, I don't know, Jungian philosophy has a lot about, there's the essence of a man can be broken into the warrior, the lover, the magician, and the king, and sort of these archetypal ways of being alive. And it's very effective. Like, you can get a lot from that kind of work. Like, it really, like these... So the Mankind Project, I think it started in the early 2000s, maybe before that, but it's been very successful, right? They have weekend warrior trainings. And again, like, I have nothing but love and respect for them. Like, I think they've helped millions of men, literally. And I have never, ever, ever, ever wanted to go to one. Just something about it, man. It's just like, I'd go and get a lot of it. I'm sure I would get a lot of it. The other sort of element of men's work that's been put out there is more in the spiritual, sexual realm, like the David Deida I would say, sort of the captain of that world, or has been. And that's pretty woo-woo, you know? It's pretty out there. He wrote a book called The Way of Superior Man, which I do recommend to guys. I think it's worthwhile. I think that it's can get confusing and complicated too, but it's helpful. And I did go to some of his trainings and got a lot out of it. But the one I think maybe the vein that you're speaking about is there's a guy that runs a program called Wake Up Warrior. It's specifically for successful businessmen with families. And it's like, you see them, they're like doing SEAL fit stuff. They're like, you know, getting in the boxing ring. And I actually am, honestly, I think I'd rather go to that than I would some of the other stuff. Just cause I like to, you know, I like to wrestle. I like to fight, you know, like there's some of it looks kind of fun.
Yeah. But see, like, this is the thing. Like, I like to fight.
Yeah.
I used to MMA fight, train jiu-jitsu. I was a cop. I like to shoot. I've done all of these things and I enjoy them and I like them a lot. I don't want to go to that fucking retreat.
Yeah.
Like, none of that looks, you know, appealing to me. I think from the perspective that I look at it, it's like they set this up and design these things in a certain way because this is what society thinks a man is supposed to be like. And so I can see men thinking, I don't really know what a man is. I don't know how to be a man. Oh, look, there's some seemingly successful man showing me what I should be doing.
Totally. And here's my take on it. First of all, at this point, I don't want anybody fucking telling me what to do. I don't care what side of the coin you come from. I don't care what you're telling me to do. Generally speaking, unless you're like Owen Marcus, like, don't tell me what to fucking do, right? Like, it's just not going to be it. Like, don't tell me how to be.
Yeah.
Don't tell me who to be. Don't tell me how to live my life. Like, you know, I have a pretty strong feeling about that. And, but I do think that a lot of men in our culture have been so disconnected from their fight, the fight in them, right? So, you know, you've lived it, you know, and a lot of men haven't. And so I can see how that's appealing to them, actually. I really can, because, so we were joking earlier at dinner about the Haka, right? The Maori, the New Zealand tribe, their sort of war dance. And I can't watch those without crying.
Yeah.
Like, I can't watch them without crying. And I feel like that is so clearly an emanation of this deep human part of us, that where we're wild fucking animals, right? And we're far more passionate and intense than our lives, our contained lives allow us to be. And I think in some ways, in different ways, each of these different men's trainings is offering a line into something bigger and deeper and more pure and more wild. But they're sort of, there's flavors to them, right? And the intention with every man is that it's more of the intention and is that it's a blank slate in a sense, where you get to show up and the only instructions we all have is to what's true for you, what's actually true for you. Sounds like that's true. What's underneath that? What's the next layer of truth for you, right? And so that we're all on our own sort of paint by numbers journey, or you know, choose your adventure journey with our own truth. And it just, I think what that also is doing is sort of hopefully providing an answer to what's hurting us in our normal lives too. It's not the sense that, you know, it's the, and I've said this a lot, but it's the prescriptive versus descriptive, right? So like, and my guess is like this hardcore Wake Up Warrior training. My guess is that once you get into it, they're not telling you how to be necessarily, but they're just offering something to break you open so you can find yourself. That's my guess. And I'm sure they're probably really good at it. They're good at making videos, that's for sure. But you know,
I'm sure it helps people.
Oh yeah.
You know, no doubt.
Yeah.
Did you guys have, did you guys consciously in the formation of Every Man, when you were sitting down and you were brainstorming and thinking about things, did you, say, okay, we know what we don't want to do, and consciously deciding that's not, we're not necessarily going to incorporate some of those aspects of what's already out there. This is where we want to bring our focus and what we want to be doing.
I don't think we had to do and we know what we don't want, because we knew exactly what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think we knew exactly how it was going to look or how to bring it out, but I think it was very clear what we wanted, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it was, there wasn't any, there was no deliberation, right? There was no, you know, and informing it. So the first retreat in the open source was with Sasha Lewis, and I keep bringing him up, but you know, a dear friend, and we sat in a men's group together for years in New York. And I've shared this before too, but you know, the first night I met him, he came into the group for his first night, and I had a big breakthrough that night. And I like came to this realization that, you know, my purpose or what I needed to do in this life was help guys and bring this to more guys. And yeah, he like just met the dude, and he's like, I'm going to help you do that. You know, and so anyway, we put together this first retreat, and you know, he was just so supportive of. By that time, you know, a year ago, I had very clear directions of what I wanted and how, you know, and you know, we collaborated so well, and he's made room for me to really, really stick to my guns, you know, and again, you know, back to Owen, the other guy we keep talking about here, but, you know, this is his life's work, you know, and he and I, since the time we met each other, have had this amazing, creative, synergistic relationship where we're just so on the same page, you know, and we have different backgrounds. You know, his lineage is very different from mine. And the other thing I don't talk about much is that my meditation practice and my meditation lineage is incredibly in line with what every man is. And it's just a different expression of it. It's just a very different expression of it. But, yeah.
So, goodness. The other thing I wanted to ask you, because I like doing podcasts where I don't think about what the hell we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But then as we're getting going, I'm sitting here thinking like, oh yeah, I forgot I wanted to ask Dan this at some point, even though I probably thought of it like a month ago or 2 months ago or something like that. Like we got to have an every woman.
Yeah. No, we're working on it.
Like this is something that my wife and I've talked about it a lot. I'm like, baby, like there's no reason, because when I started my group, I sat down with her and basically ran through what I was going to be doing, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is what it's going to look like. This is what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Here's the agreements. Here's all the different, you know, the steps and the way that it's structured and all these type of things. I just went through all of it with her as like a dry run through. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, there's no reason you can't take that and go do this.
Exactly.
Like it works.
That's the coolest shit, man. My wife and I talk about it all the time. Like it keeps bubbling up, and it's going to bubble up more and more. But, you know, the basic protocols are not about man. Mm-hmm. The basic protocols are about slowing down, getting super in touch, exactly in touch with where you are, and being able to express it, and then holding the space for others to do the same. So it's not a man-based thing. So yeah, it's going to happen, you know, and the vision is, you know, every man, every woman, but then just everyone, right?
Yeah.
Just everyone. And yeah, I think we got a lot of work, work ahead of us. Can't get too far ahead of ourselves, but you're right. You're totally right. And I think within the next couple months, we're going to be experimenting, or women are going to be experimenting with, some of our same protocols and seeing how it works, because it's going to look different, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, because my guess is that there's probably been times in your life when you've been diving into your passion, whatever it could have been at the time, right? At the current state where you were at, and feeling like, God, this is really fucking cool, and things are going really well, and I can really see like the, you know, the power and the strength behind what I'm doing, and I'm feeling really good about what I'm doing. And now that shit's long gone. Mm-hmm. Like, does this feel, granted, this has to feel different than anything else you've ever done in your life. Yeah. But does this feel like you're on the cusp of what you're going to be doing for the next 20, 30, 40 years? So
yeah, I'll up it and say 50. So at the end of the retreat, this guy Alex came up and asked me how old I was, and I'm like 35. And he's like, good. he's like, you're going to be doing this for 50 years. And I was just like, whoa. Like, whoa. So yes, I mean, yeah, I think this is definitely a big part of it too. But the other cool thing, and this is what's been happening since this last retreat, is I went through a chunk of time in my late 20s, actually a couple of different chunks of time where I had, it's just really huge waves of creativity that were unleashed. And I wrote a couple books and recorded albums and just was pretty creative. But I was really ungrounded, and I was really, dare I say, unhealthy in certain ways. And I feel I've always loved writing fiction. I've always loved writing music. And my hope is that I can do that too, and it's already happening. It seems already kind of happening too.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, I'm going to be very protective of, my lifestyle, and I don't want to travel endlessly, and I don't want to, I just want to be smart, and I want to, it's such a good thing going on with my family, I don't want to, I want to fuck shit up. So, but to answer your question, yeah, man, this feels
like the next 50 years for you.
Yeah, a good chunk of it, probably. Yeah, I think so.
I got another challenging question for you.
Yeah,
on
please.
the heels of that one.
Yeah.
Could you let it go?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, that's the hard thing for me. There's been so many times in my life where I feel like everybody, you come across this thing where like people say, oh, you got to find your why. Like, you got to figure out what your why is. Like, the reason for your life. You got to find what your passion is, and that's what you got to do. And I totally believe that.
Yeah.
But I also think that just like everything else, that changes and evolves and grows and shape. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what I'm passionate about today may not be what I'm passionate about tomorrow.
No, totally true, man. Yeah. So I think deeper than just everyman, and this was actually my most recent podcast with Craig Fialik, who's a good dude, but he does this purpose mapping to really help you clarify, what's driving you. And, my deepest purpose is really to, like, I love life. Like, I just love it. I love living. and I think that doing that wide open, and whatever the expression would be to help others realize how what we have here is pretty unique, so I guess what I'm saying is it could look very different, Yeah. I think that, yeah, man, I don't know, 10 years now, if every man's really, killing it, and there's really no need for me, maybe there's something different. I don't know. Maybe it falls flat on its face and doesn't go anywhere, and we're forced to leave it. I don't know. I feel like whatever's right underneath every man, isn't going away. So maybe it'll look like something else, but I sure like people. I sure like working with people.
Is it hard to be patient in this process?
Yeah.
Because you want so much of it right now?
Yeah, that's I don't have it by my imaginary tattoo. It says all at once.
Yeah.
That's my curse and my magic.
Yeah. I get that way where it's like you find something that you really enjoy doing and you're really passionate about.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I want all of this shit right now.
Yeah.
Because you can see all of it. Like, you can imagine all these different things. And I'm sure you have, like you talk about, every woman, or different things that you want to be doing with the podcast, and more retreats coming up next year, and different places that you want to, go and travel and do these things and host retreats. And you can see all of this shit before you, but yet you have to sit back and wait and be patient for it. And that's so challenging.
Yeah. I actually think I'm better. I'm doing better at that right now than I have for a long time. I mean, it's been a challenging year, man. Honestly, the parts that I'm really impatient for are just like basic financial comfort. Like, it's been a very scary and challenging year without, I was making good money in my last career, and as that went away in this startup, I've never been in a startup business before. I've never been in this position, and yeah, it's tough. So that's my impatience right now. I'm like, okay, let's get rid of this debt and just be okay. That's what I'm impatient for.
Yeah.
But as the retreats and listen, man, I meant it. Like when we were on the expedition and that second or third day, we did that meditation in the meadow. You know, we did that circle meditation in the meadow in the morning. We got up from there and I told Gan, I'm like, dude, kill me now. Like, I don't actually need more. And I keep having some of those feelings too. It's just like, wow, I mean, it's here. And I'm really working to feel it as it's here. And as I do that more, I feel like, yeah, I'm not scrambling for some future state, you know, which is fucking cool. You know, I think it's new.
Yeah.
It's pretty new. And it's not full, and it's not like it's, you know, I'm not saying it's not going to be there. The impatience is going to be there some more, but yeah, we got so much cool shit going on. We got like potential partnerships with some big companies. We got like, I'm starting to do some speaking gigs. I got my first speaking gig in January. You know, I don't need it to be more than it is now. I'm actually couldn't handle a whole lot more right now. So I'm not feeling impatient. I'm feeling really grateful, man.
Well, like you said at the beginning, right? Happiest you've ever been in your whole life.
It's true.
So content.
It's really, really true.
That's awesome, man. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Well, thank you, Dan.
Yeah, man.
Everybody go listen to Everyman Podcast. I tout your praises like all the time.
Thanks, man.
On every chance that I get to talk to people about it, or so yeah.
Yeah, come check us out. Come on a retreat. Let's go have some fun. Let's go party.
Well, thank you.
All right.
And everybody go out and have a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful day.
When a door opens, you leap through it. We're practicing feeling and saying things that we've never been safe enough to do, and in doing so, it unleashes a lot. What's true for you? Practicing to be present and okay with every direction, with the deepest, wildest, warmest, gentlest love and the darkest, scariest, violent anger,